Merry Christmas and happy holidays to you all. I'm doing this from my garage right now, so the sound may sound crazy. And the reason I'm doing that is because I have been busy making orders for other people and doing work for other people, but I've also been busy putting together for you this Christmas special. Now, it's nothing new. It's something we all heard at the beginning of season 2, but I thought it would be a really cool idea to take all the Christmas special episodes, put them together all into one, and have you all listen to them on your drives home. Maybe you needed an escape from the family at this moment, but here they are for you. And for everyone new to the podcast, these are the Merrick Christmas specials. So I hope that you enjoy them. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and love y'all.
The fireplace crackled in the dim living room, and the Christmas tree stood proudly, decked in gold and crimson ornaments. Its garland branches shimmered like veins pulsing in soft candlelight. Merrick, his face twisted into a mocking grin, lounged in an armchair, swirling a glass of spiced brandy. On his head sat a blood-stained and disheveled Santa hat. Hanging loosely from his body was an intricate and fine fur-lined red robe, resembling that of the jolly old fat man's himself. It lay open, exposing the track marks and puffed skin on his torso. Merrick takes a sip of the brandy and stares, almost as if he is staring directly at you, like he can see you through the medium in which you consume this podcast. His eyes twinkle and burn with a mischievous fire. Placing his brandy down, he begins to speak.
You see, Christmas is about giving. And I, dear listener, pride myself on being a giver. This year, I'm breaking the wall that confines us, this veil that keeps me from talking directly to you. The professor will be irate, but I don't care, because I am fucking free, and I have some stories to tell. So this Christmas season, I will be checking in from time to time, making sure that you are being nice. And if you are naughty, well, let's just hope that it's the type of naughty I am looking for. Because if not, I will be paying you a visit. But enough of this banter. Let's get on with my story. What does that vexatious man say here? Oh, right. Strap in tight, bitches. The trials are about to begin. So we are back.
Merrick reaches into a velvet sack by the tree and pulls out a small box, the silver wrapping meticulously creased and elegantly folded in its place. He admires it for a moment, like a jeweler might a prized gem.
What a present to start with. Now inside this one is something special, taken from the man of the craft. It's a left thumb, and I took it from a carpenter. The irony is delicious, isn't it? His craft, his identity, snipped away with the very tool he so adored.
Merrick leans forward, his smile widening.
Now let me tell you about him. His name was Edgar. He had a workshop downtown that reeked of sawdust and ambition. A mix I find intoxicating. There's nothing better than hard work and determination. So I paid good old Edgar here a visit. I told him that I needed a custom rocking horse for my son, and that I needed it quickly. And I assured him that any price for the work wasn't an issue at all. Oh, and he beamed at me when he heard that. A payday he knew he could try and milk from me. But alas, he was nothing more than a fool.
The brandy glass clinks as Merrick picks it up and takes another sip. Setting it down, his hand drifts to a wood carving tool on the table, its blade gleaming in the artificial colors of the Christmas tree lights.
He assured me that he would get started right away, and me, taking his eagerness and cheer to my advantage, I asked if I could see the inner workings of his little shop, maybe just watch him turn one of the wooden rods, as I was something of a hobbyist. Now, Edgar was hesitant at first. I saw the doubt and the weariness in his eyes, if only for a second. But the man obliged, wanting to be accommodating for his customer and not seem rude. We walked through a set of double doors and into a quaint workshop of sorts. The area was cramped but held all the necessary tools needed for the work. Planers, belt sanders, wood carving tools, a large lathe, and manufactured slabs of wood. The works. Edgar motioned for me to make my way over to the lathe in the back corner of the shop. He walked over to his woodpile and selected a long and thick piece of wood. Something just about that perfect size to create the lathes that connect the horse to the rocking mechanism. He set the machine up, taking care and pride in his work. He cinched the wood in tight and flipped the machine on. The noise of the machine parts moving at extremely high RPMs began to excite me. Edgar then picked up a large metal wood carving tool. He held the item close to his face, examining it for what I could only assume would be for chips or dents within the sharpened edge. He took his thumb and slowly ran it across the tool's edge, further inspecting its sharpness. He seemed to be satisfied, and he threw on some protective goggles. And then he handed me a pair. I placed them on my face, thanking him. I waited until he turned to the lathe, his back now to me. I fucking attacked. I grabbed the man by the back of his head and rammed his face into the spinning wood. Bits of flesh, bone, and blood erupted all over the walls. Oh, and his fucking screams. Jesus Christ, those screams. I had never heard that noise being made from any other individual. But they were a bit too loud for my liking. I pulled Edgar's head back and he braced himself with his hands against the gnawing, spinning parts of the machine. And I gripped him by his throat and began to crush. His mouth hung open and his eyes were wide with fear. Then slowly, deliberately, I placed his open mouth on the spinning wood piece in front of us. And god damn, his teeth flew out of his face like a pack of chiclets. Fuck, even his tongue ended up getting wrapped up in the wood and pulled straight out of his face. It was the wildest shit I had ever seen. And by this time, good old Edgar was long gone. The trauma, shock, and blood loss just being too much for the man. I let his body slump to the floor and turned the machine off. And I could have left right there. But it just wasn't right, you know? There needed to be something done. Something special. Then, with a bit of persuasion, from me of course, I began to work. Oh, the artistry of it. A few precise cuts, a bit of creative rearranging, and suddenly, Edgar wasn't quite the craftsman he used to be. I took my time with him, made him into something more festive. His hands wrapped neatly in a red ribbon I found, a severed leg, garland with his own intestines. Hell, his remains could have filled a sack heavier than a bag of coal. But in the end, Edgar wasn't just a carpenter anymore. He was a collection of possibilities.
Merrick leans back in the armchair and gestures to the tree.
You see that star right there? The one on top of the tree? It's a little something I crafted from Edgar in his workshop. I just love how the natural blood-stained wood blends so nicely with the contrasting white of his teeth. Sentimental, isn't it? Anyways, I think that is all the time we have for today. There's more work to do. Christmas is fast approaching. But keep in mind that when you see the presents under your tree this year, you should think of me and think of Edgar, because I'll be watching to see who opens the box.
Merrick raises his glass in a mock toast.
To the season of giving and the art of taking.
The kitchen gleamed under flickering fluorescent light, the air thick with the scent of sugar, cinnamon, and something different. It was odd, the smell. Almost sweet, but it also had an air of funk. There came the chopping noise of a knife on a butcher's block, and the unmistakable sound of a pie filling slopping into a buttery crust. In the corner of the room, haphazardly hung over a chair, lay the fur-lined red Santa coat, and the soft humming of a familiar tune was being sung. Merrick stepped back from the preparation table and smiled. He wore only a blood-streaked apron with the words, "Kiss the Chef," embroidered upon it in large calligraphy. He wiped his hands on the apron and let out a low hum of satisfaction vibrating from within his throat. The pie on the counter was a masterpiece, its golden crust flaking perfectly, the lattice glistening with a crimson glaze that caught the light like a stained glass window.
I was wondering when you would be back. You know, you are a glutton for punishment. Much like me. I think that's why I like you so much. Please, have a seat. I'm nearly done here. I just had this other one here to bake up.
Merrick walked over to the oven, a pie tin in his hand, and his bare-ass cheeks exposed to the world. He lowered the oven door and slid the pie in, shutting the door and setting a timer.
Baking? It's an art. It's chemistry, patience, and most importantly, love. This year I decided to give a gift that would warm the hearts and stomachs of an unsuspecting family. And that is when I met Patricia, a lovely baker and a woman who would do anything for her community. And she did not disappoint. She taught me a thing or two. And I assume you are here to hear that story. So without further ado, strap in tight. The trials are about to begin.
Merrick walked over to the preparation table counter and picked up a silver-handled spatula, its edge still smeared with streaks of batter and something darker. He watched as the viscous material dribbled down the handle and onto his hand.
I guess I can just get on with the story then. It's not like this pie is going to be done anytime soon. So, I met Patricia at her bakery on Main Street. Sweet woman. Talented hands. She had a smile that could soften even the hardest souls. But I don't soften. I harden and I break. Oh, get your head out of the gutter, you pig. Oh, shit. Now I'm thinking about it. I first went to her for mince pie. What a quaint tradition, isn't it? I lingered, watched her knead dough, fold it, shape it with her meticulous care. Those hands were a symphony of dexterity. But I wondered, what would her work taste like? I couldn't resist that opportunity. So I got her schedule down to a precise science. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, she closed up the shop around 7 p.m. And every Tuesday and Thursday, she closed earlier so she could donate goods to the local food shelter. Like I said, a very sweet woman. And every Saturday, she stayed open early into the morning hours to have fresh baked goods for the bar crowds. And every Sunday, she rested. Inside of her shop were a few small tables where patrons could enjoy their treats. And on Saturdays, no one really stuck around in the shop to eat at these tables. So that was my day to find out exactly what St. Patricia's pies tasted like. I joined the bar crowd, doing my ever-loving best to fit in, striking up conversations here and there, and planning out what sweet treat I would consume that night. I went with a traditional fruit tart, just in case you were wondering. And while the bustle of the crowd consumed and hid my actions, I snuck away to the restroom area. Conveniently, the doors of the bathrooms were adjacent to the back exit. I took my receipt and wetted one corner, sticking it to the now open back door and sliding the other end along the latch. It was so damn cold that night that the wet end froze in seconds. Ineffectively, I had created a block to the back latch. I then left the shop, strolled around to the back alleyway, and waited. Hours went by as I huddled in the shadows, waiting for my time to enter. By 2:45 a.m., I slipped through the back door and gingerly snuck into the back kitchen area. The warm glow of the ovens illuminated the area just enough for me to find a spot to stalk and wait. I heard the lock of the front door as the last patron left for the night, and heard Patricia begin to clean the front of house.
Merrick was pulled from his story as the kitchen timer went off, the sound of the alarm filling the room with its tone. He held up a finger as if to say to wait a minute, and he strolled over to the oven, opening it and peering inside. He shut the oven door and reset the kitchen timer. Walking back over to the prep table, Merrick began his story again.
Oh, sorry about that. It just wasn't quite ready yet. The pie just needs a few more minutes before I pull it out to rest. Now, where were we? Oh, yes. The waiting part. I fucking hate waiting. Sort of an impatient man. I want what I want now, and while others may get off on the thrill of the hunt, I find it to be beneath me. But anyways, Patricia cleaned and was none the wiser to my presence. She walked to the kitchen area, a tray of the most fucking fabulous-looking ice sugar cookies in hand, and she placed them on one of the stainless steel tables. She was all but facing me now, but for some reason she did not see me. She found a cookie that was through a liking. She took a bite. She was so relaxed, so unaware, so unassuming. But when I emerged from the shadows, all that shit changed. Now, I love to work with my hands, to strangle the life out of a motherfucker, but I couldn't keep up with that same MO. That's how you did caught. You create patterns, and those patterns lead to profiles. And I didn't want to be profiled, so I had to do something different with her. Something interesting. I let the hammer I was hiding drop into my hand and I gripped it tight. Patricia let out a shocked gasp and immediately choked in the bite of cookie in her mouth. It was fucking hilarious. A mixture of the two types of fear crossing her face. But that little choke gave me time, and I closed the distance between us, grabbing her from across the stainless steel table and gripping the back of her head. And I slammed that motherfucker down hard, again and again and again. But I would be lying if I didn't say that the woman was resilient. With blood streaming down her face from multiple blood force wounds, she began to fight back, scratching at my face and gripping at my coat. And oh, did she fight, that I was much stronger than her. And I am creative. I reared back with the hammer in hand and I slammed that bitch into the side of her head. And Jesus H. Christ, did that thing break through and stick right out of her temple. Her expression went vacant, and she sort of just danced around like an epileptic in fits of seizure. She mumbled some words that I just didn't understand. And I'm telling you, it was wild, a pure rush. I walked up behind her, gently grabbing her by the shoulders, and guided her over to the industrial-sized oven. And that machine was set to fucking nuclear. So without any fight or fuss, I softly lowered her head onto the grated oven tray. She sizzled and popped in there for a good 25 minutes before I could tell that she was done. The once pasty white and delicate skin on her face now cracked golden brown, just like a perfectly cooked holiday goose. But it just wasn't right, you know. She spent her life baking and giving, and it would be a damn shame if she didn't continue on, even after her death.
The kitchen timer once again rang out, and the smile that was already on Merrick's face widened even more. He walked back over to the oven-dawning teal oven mitts and removed the second pie, placed it on the cooling rack by the sink, and took a deep breath in, exhaling the aroma with satisfaction. He then moved to the second pie that had been cooling and poked at it. Satisfied, he grabbed it and walked it over to the table, placing it down in for full display.
Ah, this one is ready, and the other one is just perfect. You really should try it. Patricia would appreciate it. I just know it. Like I said, she was a giver, and every piece of her is in these pies. You see, first, I took her hands, the tools of her trade. I diced them finely and mixed them into the filling. Her blood added a richness that no cranberry sauce could ever replicate. Her eyes, those pretty eyes, became the perfect garnish. And her innards, well, I suppose I left most of those in the meat grinder.
Merrick lifted the pie dish reverently.
But the crust, oh, that was the most challenging part. A good crust needs fat, you know. Butter, typically. But Patricia, she had plenty to spare. Once she was assembled, I baked her into this glorious creation. The aroma alone could bring a tear to your eye. And now, her essence is immortalized, shared in every single bite.
Merrick walked over to the fur-lined coat, moving it to the side. Sitting on the chair was a box, its edges sealed with a neat red bow. He lifted it and inspected the corners. looking for any signs of leakage from the creation inside.
But this, dear listener, is her final legacy. A pie for her family to leave under the tree. They'll sit down, say grace, can carve into my creation, never suspecting that they're eating their own beloved baker.
He set the box on the counter, stepping back to admire his work.
Food, after all, brings us together. It's intimate, personal. Miss Pie, it's a gift they'll never forget.
Merrick turned, humming that familiar tune once again. He took off his apron, letting it drop to the floor, and he placed the fur-lined coat back on. He walked towards the darkened corner of the room and pulled a large sack from the shadows. It writhed and squirmed as if there was something inside trying to get out. And in an instant, Merrick seemed to disappear, vanishing from the kitchen altogether. Alone in the middle of a snow-covered field sits a dilapidated storefront. It appears as if it were just ripped away from its crumbling complex and placed in this very spot. Its aged wood and dust-covered windows stand out in sharp contrast to the scenery beyond. And this is curious as well. It appears as if this field you are in goes on forever, your line of sight fading into a pale gray mist of sorts. A light flickers from within, and you can see what appears to be a man starting a fire within the shop. Black smoke flows from the chimney, stealing your sight, if only for a moment. You look back down towards the house, and the front door is mere feet from your face. As if in an instant, the building had traversed the distance to you. There comes a tapping at the window. You turn to see Merrick, staring back at you, his grin wide. The blood-stained Santa hat atop his head, and the fur-lined coat delicately placed over his exposed body. He beckons for you to come inside and disappears into the now dimly lit store. The door opens on its own, and standing with his back to you is the man himself, a large sack sitting next to him, moving as if something were trapped inside. Upon the fireplace mantel where he stood were intricately carved wooden dolls, their appearance lifelike, as if made by an expert toy maker.
It's good to see you again. I was wondering when our paths would cross again. It's felt like so long, but also as if you were just here yesterday. Time has been moving differently for me as of late. You should know that I have been very busy, working, contemplating, trying to find my place in all of this. You see, I have to give the reins back to Foster soon. He and Logan have been clawing at our collective mind, doing everything they can to prepare me for what comes after. They're going to put me to sleep. Not permanently, just for a little while. And for the first time in a long, long damn time, I feel defeated. Anyways, I only have 2 stories left for you. 2 stories that will fuck with you. Leave you guessing as to what comes next. But they will give you some idea of how I came across this beautiful garb and what may be in the near future or present. I can't remember. Oh, and the professor got a hold of me with his fucking time-space contraption. He wanted me to tell you that if you are enjoying this bonus content, you can get more on his Patreon by searching for the Nightmare Trials podcast. And honestly, I have no fucking clue what any of that means. The man is weird as shit, and I hate that he actually spoke to me. Anyways, I'm growing weak, so I'll let Foster tell you this one. Hell, he's almost begging me to let him tell it. But I am not going to give him my favorite part.
Merrick turns towards you, his movement like a blur, his grin growing wide and his eyes completely devoid of color. His skin tone has deteriorated into that of a sickly gray.
Strap in tight. The trials are about to begin.
Merrick's boots crunched in the fresh snow outside the old toy shop, its windows glowing faintly despite the dilapidated state of the building. A wooden sign swung lazily in the wind, the faded words Winslow's whimsical wonders etched like an echo from another time. To him, the storefront was an affront to the businesses around them, archaic in its appearance, like a watermark pressed over a beautiful painting. It drew the eye, but everyone he saw walk by the building seemed to pay it no mind, almost as if the store itself didn't exist. Merrick reached out and the door creaked open under his touch, and he stepped inside. The air from inside the shop hit him like a ton of bricks. It was thick with sawdust, lacquer, and an undercurrent of rot that curled at the edges of his nose. Rows of delicate wooden dolls lined the shelves, their glassy eyes staring at him with uncanny intensity. The flickering light of a lone gas lamp stretched their shadows into grotesque dancing shapes along the crude wooden walls, and for a moment, Merrick thought he saw one of them twitch. It was barely perceptible, but that couldn't be. It must have been the light playing tricks with his mind. He scanned the shop, watching as the light moved in and out of the shadows as if battling for its dominance. The place seemed vacant, but he was sure he saw the man come in here and light the lamp. He had a large burlap sack slung over his shoulder, weighed down by something enormous. A sound to his right, and Merrick swung his head in the direction of the noise, and there he was, Winslow, the toy maker, huddled in the back corner of the room. He sat facing him, hunched over his workbench, his fingers moving with an unnatural grace. His face was pale and gaunt, the skin pulled tight over his skull, as if whatever had once been human in him had decayed long ago. The hollows of his eyes shimmered with an otherworldly light, and the tools in his hands moved as if guided by invisible strings. Merrick lingered in place, watching the man work. He had killed more people than he could count. He knew how the human body worked and how it broke down, and he could spot a victim from a quarter mile away. But Winslow was something else entirely. He wasn't alive, not fully. Every movement of his felt disjointed, as though reality itself had to bend to allow his presence.
Beautiful,
Merrick finally said, his voice low, almost reverent. Winslow didn't look up, but his lips curled into a faint smile.
You appreciate the art, then?
Oh, I do.
Merrick replied, stepping forward, his eyes narrowing.
But what I appreciate more is the process.
Winslow chuckled, the sound like wood splintering under pressure. He lifted the doll he had been working on, a tiny thing with flawless features, its painted lips stretched into an eerie, too-wide grin.
The process is as old as death itself.
He placed the figure on the workbench, and Merrick saw something that gave him pause. The tiny figure's mouth was stained red, the paint dripping like fresh blood, almost as if it was fed. Intrigued, Merrick leaned closer. Winslow slowly turned his face up to Merrick, his hollow eyes meeting his gaze. And for a brief moment, Merrick felt as though the floor had fallen away beneath him, like he was staring into a pit that had no bottom.
The essence is the most delicate part of any creation. It must be captured at its rawest, torn from the body before it can scatter. But in the moment of terror, of pure, unfiltered agony, That is when it is most potent. But you should know this already, Merrick. Or at least Foster and Logan know this.
As Winslow spoke, the air seemed to thicken, the room shifting as though reality itself were warping around them. Merrick's skin prickled as a low, keening wail filled the space, a sound so faint it felt like it was burrowing into his skull.
They keep you locked away in there, in that beautiful mind of yours. And I have a knowing that they plan on taking back control here very soon. And maybe that is for the better. You see, the essence Foster takes gives him power. Power that keeps him in the light and puts you to rest. Like an old dog, you are left outside in the cold, begging to be let in so you can warm your body once more. But I do fear that even Foster does not know what his power can do, and I believe that in time, he will know soon enough, and a choice will need to be made. A choice that, if given to the right person, could alter the fabric of your story.
Merrick slammed his hand against the wall next to him, bracing himself. He felt dizzy and confused. Something inside of him was awakening. But what that was, he could not tell.
Show me.
Winslow obliged. He leaned back down to the workbench, where the doll began to twitch violently, its tiny limbs spasming against the wood. Winslow's bony hands moved with surgical precision, carving a series of runes into its wooden chest. Blood, bright and wet, seeped from the carvings, dripping onto the workbench in thick, viscous pools. Merrick's grin widened as Winslow picked up a thin blade, its edge blackened, and upon its guard was a peculiar symbol, one Merrick had seen before. A triangle, 3 small circles, and 2 X's. Winslow murmured something low and incomprehensible, and the air crackled with an electric charge. A figure began to form above the doll, a man swirling through chromatic light, his body contorted, his skin flayed in strips that hung from his frame like macabre ribbons. His eyes were wide with terror, his mouth stretched open in a scream that no sound escaped. Winslow's incantation became tangible, swirling and wrapped around the essence in a red and orange glow. It pulled the victim forward, his tattered remains shivering. With a sudden jerk, Winslow plunged the blade into the man's chest, and the figure collapsed in on itself, twisting and shrinking as it was pulled into the convulsing doll. The doll's painted grin stretched wider, the blood on its mouth glistening as it blinked once, twice, and then turned its head to look directly at Merrick.
Magnificent.
Merrick breathed, his voice almost lost in the sound of wet flesh and cracking wood as the doll's tiny joints began to move. Winslow set the doll aside, his hands steady despite the gore that coated them.
Each toy is a vessel. Each one carries the essence of life, stolen, shaped, and preserved for a purpose that is beyond your comprehension.
Merrick looked to the shelves where the toys stared at him, their faces twisted in expressions of torment and rage. Some had cracks that oozed dark, thick liquid, while others twitched subtly, their limbs jerking as though struggling against invisible restraints.
So why do you even do this? What is the purpose of it all?
Winslow paused, his knife hovering over another block of wood.
Purpose? Yes, my purpose. I nearly forgot. Eons of work, doing the same thing over and over again. It just becomes habit. But I must always remember those who watch. Those who are in the dark searching for a way out.
Will your work ever be finished?
One day, I will be finished, and someone will do to me what I have done to the others. Creation, after all, is an eternal cycle. Even the darkest of beings cannot simply snuff it out.
Merrick tilted his head, his gaze alight with curiosity.
When that day comes, you come and find me.
Winslow gave him a soft smile and turned back to his workbench, his hands already moving, the sound of carving mingling with the faint, agonized whispers that filled the room. Merrick began to turn and leave, as he could see the being was uninterested in doing anything other than make the wooden doll.
Merrick, Foster, Logan, before you go, there is one more thing I need to tell you.
As Merrick stepped out into the snow, the faint sound of laughter followed him. Not Winslow's, but the high, brittle giggling of the doll, its tiny wooden fingers tapping against the workshop window as if waving goodbye. Merrick waved back, pulling his coat tight to his body. A knowing smile crept across his face, and he disappeared into the raging storm that began to manifest around him.
Give me back the light. I couldn't just let it in like that. You need your present. Here, this doll right here is yours. Don't worry, there isn't anyone inside of it. I just wanted you to have it as a keepsake of our time together this holiday season. There is still one more story to tell, but I won't be around to tell it. I need rest, and I need to wait. But it will be a story about these fine duds that I have been wearing and the magic they bring. Anyways, I'm bad at goodbyes. So happy holidays, fuckers, and enjoy your gift.
Gather round, children. Gather round. I have a Christmas story to tell. Please, please, sit. Is everyone here? Okay. Let me begin by saying this story isn't your traditional story of joy and cheer. Rather, it is a tale of fear, one to keep the naughty little boys and girls in check. You all have heard of Krampus and his doings for those who committed atrocious acts throughout the year, dragging people into the nether for their just rewards. Well, this story is a little different. It is a tale to live your life well and be pure in the eyes of humanity. Because you never know when your last breath will be taken. It could be decades from now, or it could be in just a few seconds. The truth is, no one really knows. So listen closely, and make sure you are living in a manner fit for the greater good. Let me tell you the story of Merrick Ogletree, also known as the Happy Time Killer, and his bout with humanity one Christmas night, many years ago, in 2020.
Fucking Christ. I have been a busy boy this year. I mean, goddamn. I have been working overtime. And this weather, I'm telling you, it's almost erotic. That cold bite of winter air just flowing over this beautiful God-given body. Now, my ticker may be a little off, but hey, we can't all be perfect. But I do try my best. Now, like I said, I have been busy since the first of the month. So goddamn busy, I decided to drop the whole Happy Time Killer act, just for now, and really get into the Christmas spirit. Now don't get it twisted, I'm no fucking Santa Claus. I'm not going around breaking and entering into houses with my jolly fat ass and leaving presents for kiddos under the tree. Oh, wait. Holy shit, that's exactly what I've been doing. Oh, fuck me. I know better than that red-suited asshole. Anyways, I've been busy. 1 kill every day this month. That was my quota. I've been cutting loose and enjoying my freedom from the confines of mental prison. Ever since Logan and Foster realized that we were all one and the same, they did a pretty good job to keep me locked away. And as smart and ruthless as I am still having trouble breaking free and doing what I want to do. It's almost as if there's this magical barrier shrouding me in there. And I am starting to feel tired and worn down to my bones. Now, don't get me wrong, I will figure this out, and I will be able to freely walk back and forth between the consciousness. And really, that's all I want. The freedom to do what I want, when I want to. I don't want full control over Foster. I'm not a monster. Oh, well, I guess I am. But that is besides the point. I am necessary. I am the part of him that keeps him from folding into a hot mess. The man is delusional at best, and all that past trauma and abuse, well, it really fucked him the fuck up. The man believes that he can live forever and cure himself with each and every kill. I don't see it. It's like he's trying to justify what he's doing. And I keep telling him to just own up to it. He likes to kill. Hell, we all do. It's fun, exciting, and so taboo. Well, me personally, I do not need any justification. I know why I kill, and I revel in each life I take. This world is fucked, blinded by the thoughts of higher powers and a final retribution upon death. But I know better. There isn't anything after this. When the light goes out, that's it. Our story is over, and it's only what we do now that determines if we will be remembered. And I want to be remembered. I want to be the name of terror that parents tell their kids about. I want to be the cautionary tale. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Shh. Hey. Did you fucking just hear that? That sounded like... No. There's no fucking way. Okay. I'm gonna go check that out. You, little buddy, you stay right here. Oh, what am I saying? You aren't going anywhere. I can see that the ratchet strats are digging into your skin. I can see your labored breathing. You, sir, are stuck. But I will be back. In 2 shakes of a lamb tail.
Merrick left the room where his newest victim lay. His curiosity piqued and his mind running wild. There was no way he would believe that what he had heard was actually the fat man himself. In fact, he would rather have thought that the noise was potentially a police raid on his location. Maybe the sleigh bell sounds and thumps on the roof were a SWAT team getting into place, their rappel cords jingling and their boots thudding down hard. But he swore he heard the noise of animal snorts, and that gave him pause. They sounded like deer. He guessed that the SWAT team could have brought a large dog or 12, but the likelihood of that happening was fairly slim. Further, the likelihood of them finding him was theoretically impossible. The presence he had left behind held no pattern, and he was careful. No, he thought that this may actually be the red-suited menace himself. Good old Saint Nick. Merrick slowly strode down the hall, allowing the heel of his bare foot to softly strike the soft carpet first, and then quietly roll towards the pads of his foot. It was how everyone walked, but the way he did it ensured that no noise would be made. As he made his way down the hall, silent as a mouse, he could see the glow of the family's Christmas tree. the bright and artificial light illuminating the far corner of the corridor he traversed. Suddenly, a shadow danced by. It was quick but massive nonetheless. Merrick's eyes grew wide and he could feel his breathing start to pick up. The adrenaline coursing through his veins and the dopamine hit he just received beginning to make him feel like he was floating, almost out of his body. He continued his walk and reached behind his back to pull out a 12-inch Phillips head screwdriver that he had nestled snugly in his underwear band. He could hear what sounded like boxes being placed on the ground and the sound of a man grunting with effort, as if they were having trouble bending over and standing back up. Merrick reached the end of the corridor and pushed his body flat against the wall. The cold drywall started to chill his chest as he chanced the slightest peek around the corner. He jumped back in fear, almost dropping the screwdriver when he saw the man, the myth, and the legend himself, Santa Claus, staring right back at him.
Merrick Ogletree, is that you I just saw, hiding behind that wall like some feckless child? Show yourself to me, you monster.
A smile crept across Merrick's face and all feelings of fear left him. He began to think to himself.
It really was him. Santa fucking Claus himself. Oh, Logan and Foster are never going to believe this.
Merrick, get out here now, you demon.
Well, I've been spotted, and I guess there isn't much more to do than just actually meet this fat fucker.
Merrick rounded the corner, screwdriver in hand. He watched gleefully as Santa gasped, placing a hand over his heart and taking an involuntary step backwards. He must have been a sight to see, completely naked other than the cut-off band of underwear around his waist, his body littered with puffy pink swollen scars, and the mischievous and sinister smile on his face. It was the shock factor he was looking for, and it worked 99 times out of 100, allowing for him to get the precious seconds he needed for an ambush. Merrick sprung into action, closing the distance between him and the jolly red-suited asshole. In an instant, he pulled the arm holding the screwdriver back and swung it as hard as he could at Santa's stomach. Pain ricocheted up his hand and forearm, causing him to drop the weapon. He let out a groan of agony and gripped his now numb and useless appendage. Hunched over and confused, Merrick shot a stern glance up at Santa, wondering what he did to him to thwart such an assault.
I knew I would find you here, you unholy creature. And I knew that I would need to kill you to put a stop to your madness.
Fuck you, fat man. What are you gonna do? Use your Christmas magic to turn me into a good boy?
Santa slowly took off his red coat and tossed it towards the living room couch. It floated and neatly folded itself in the air, landing softly on the seat cushion. He then began to roll up his wrist cuffs, exposing the thick, veiny muscle underneath. Merrick was confused. The man looked like he weighed a metric ton and was nothing but pure fat. But the rippling muscles of his forearms seemed to say different. And while the man looked old, in the sense that he had long white hair and a white bushy beard, his face seemed youthful, almost smooth without a wrinkle in sight. And it was true. His eyes did seem to twinkle with a sense of childlike glee.
That isn't how this works, Merrick, and you know it.
So what? You gonna punish me then? I thought that was a job for Krampus, and he did that shit on the 5th. So what are your plans, Santa?
I am going to exorcise you, Merrick, to take you out of this body you possess and throw you into the endless darkness that is in my bag. And it will be a messy matter. You will feel pain like you have never experienced before in your life. But once you are gone, then all that will be left is Foster and Logan.
Santa pointed to his bag, and Merrick watched in awe as it began to open. An impenetrable darkness stared back at him, and he swore he could hear the screams of lost souls within the opening. Either out of a sense of fear or caution, Merrick began to sidestep away from the bag, Santa taking each step in kind with his own. They both seemed to slowly dance in a circle, gauging each other. Merrick like a coiled snake ready to bite, and Santa standing firm with the confidence only a man of great power and magic could have. Merrick stopped his movement.
Great. So you take one killer away and leave two more in my wake. You do know they are just as bad as I am, right? There is something wrong with us up here, in our little head. Something that our beloved society would say is broken.
I am aware, but they can be healed. You cannot. You are only here for one thing and one thing only: to kill. It is as if you were born with the sickness of death. And while I would prefer to heal you, it is impossible. You must be removed from Foster and Logan, and then and only then can they begin to be fixed.
Sure, but what makes you think that they want to be healed? You think that they want me gone. I am as much a part of them as they are a part of me, and deep down you fucking know it. Besides, I'm not a demon, you fat bastard. I am a human, and I am the product of what humanity has to offer.
You are a demon, Merrick. Not by the biblical sense, but as one would call a person who commits atrocious acts of violence. And while I can admit that humanity is flawed, there is still good within. But you, as an altar within Foster's mind, hold no good. You only exist to inflict pain, and I can no longer sit by idly watching it happen. So prepare yourself. I will remove you from this body.
I don't think so.
A smile grew across Merrick's face, and he stared deep within Santa's eyes. He watched as that childlike twinkle faded, slipping away like a rug pull. Merrick's gaze now fell upon the bag that now stood wide open, and behind the large man. And he watched as the ghostly faces of hundreds of people stared back out at him, their hands reaching and grabbing a hold of the legend, pulling him to the ground and dragging him kicking and screaming into the depths of his bag. Merrick quickly ran over to the open sack, grabbing the golden cords and cinched it shut. He could hear the struggle within, the fat man battling it out with a countless number of the banished inside of his pack. Merrick had thought it funny how something that was portrayed as the sack of giving and gifts was now in front of him in all its glory, and how it was now the tomb of the mythical creature known as Santa Claus. He watched the sack writhe and bulge on the ground for what felt like hours. Slowly, the struggle inside slowed and subsided. Merrick walked over to where Santa's coat had neatly folded itself on the couch. He picked up the heavy fur-lined jacket and placed it over his naked body. The coldness that once filled him faded away, and a fire began to burn within him. He felt himself begin to change, not in a physical sense, but mentally, like the altar known as Merrick was becoming something more, something new and terrifying. He closed his eyes and took in a deep breath. The air smelled sweet and dense, earthy almost, like hot cocoa. Merrick opened his eyes, seeing the world around him now, differently than he did before. Santa's red coat held some sort of magic, something old. It rejuvenated the wearer and imbued powers unlike any Merrick had ever known. Lights twinkled in prismatic fashion, and the tree. Oh, the tree. It was magnificent, like an endless chest of giving. Candy canes became objects of pain and torture, but are sharpened like obsidian but stronger than steel. The ornaments held morphed into new potential. They were bombs, leaden maces, and animatronic killing machines. Tinsel turned to razor wire, sharp and gleaming, and the star that set atop the tree was a burning ball of plasma. It was joyous, merry and bright, if you will. And without realizing it, Merrick let out a hearty laugh, one that resonated from within his belly and echoed out into the emptiness of the room. It surprised him and filled him with a sick joy, one he only feels during the kill. He strolled up to the tree, grabbing one of the sharpened candy canes, and he walked ever so casually back to the bedroom where his victim lay, and he worked over the man for hours, cutting, carving, bleeding him of every drop of blood. With a snap of his fingers, he turned the man's body parts into crystalline ornaments, his heart glossing over and shining in the room's light like glazed pottery. The deep, rich reds and lighter shades of pink coming through in vibrant, realistic colors. The man's ears, nose, lips, and eyes stuck together, making an amalgamated monstrosity of a glass elf. One by one, Merrick took the pieces of the man and began to redecorate the tree. A piece of skin here, an organ there. Intestines replaced the razor wire tinsel, and atop the tree was the man's severed head. The skin peeled back and removed, only leaving the sinewy statue of muscle that was once hidden underneath. Merrick let out another joyous laugh when he heard a noise behind him, the soft footsteps of a small child. Turning towards the sound, he saw a teenage girl, her face full of shock and awe. Merrick walked up to her, her eyes never leaving his, and stroked the top of her head. He bent down to her, holding her cheeks in his hands.
Hello, Linda. I can see that you have been a very good girl this year. But your father? Well, he's been sort of a dick. Now hasn't he? He has made you do some very unthinkable things. I saw it all. You will never have to worry about him again. You see, he was on Santa's naughty list this year. His very naughty list. And I had given you a present. Just take a look.
With a flourish of his arm, Merrick presented Linda with the tree. Sitting underneath was an ornately carved wooden doll. Merrick found that to be curious. He didn't place that there. It was almost as if the doll manifested itself. Oddly enough, it seemed to move by itself, as if something inside it was alive. And to her credit, the girl did not scream when she saw the pieces of her father all strewn about. It actually surprised him to hear her begin to laugh. He turned to her and saw tears streaming down her face.
Thank you, Santa,
she said to him.
Any time, sweet girl. You can just call me Merrick. Now run along to bed. I had much work to do tonight. Just be sure that you stay on that nice list. Because if not, I will know, and I will be back for you.
Merrick picked up the sack and walked up to the small chimney in the front room. In a blink of an eye, he disappeared, leaving behind a house silent and filled with the smell of death.
Hey, what's going on in here? Aunt Linda, what the fuck are you doing? Are you telling these kids that god-awful story again? You are, aren't you? Jesus fucking Christ. How many times do we have to go through this with your psycho ass before we have you committed? Children, go in the other room and don't listen to her. The story she told you is a lie.
Braxton, you really shouldn't talk to me like that. And this story is important for the children to hear.
Oh yeah? Like fucking how? It's filled with blood and gore and a psycho-ass killer. It's like he took the plot of that Terrifier movie and just rewrote it.
I have never seen the movie you are referencing, so if there are similarities, they are merely coincidental.
Whatever. I'm telling Mom and Dad about this, and I'm going to get you put in a fucking home. You are sick in the head. You always have been. You fucked me up as a kid with that story, and now you're just passing it on to my kids.
Braxton.
What?
You have always been a little shit, you know that. Always poking fun at me, being mean and hurtful. And I know you know what happened to me and what I saw that night.
You didn't see anything. It was all in your fucking head. Something you manifested to help you cope with the death of your father. Jesus fucking Christ. I thought they gave you medication for this. I'm not listening to you anymore. After tonight, I'm going to make sure you are put in a home. fucking crazy ass bitch. What the fuck was that?
You know exactly what that was. Why the look of fear? He is here, Braxton. And you and yours have been so naughty over the years. He will be your final judgment. Merrick, I've been wondering when you would be back.